More expensive this week. I'll hold my chin up, keep this grin up like my mother, she can work.
Welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us at SchuBros Unfiltered. My name is Ross and I'm joined here by my brother Kyle. Kyle, tell everybody how you're doing tonight.
Hey Ross, I'm doing pretty good. I'm alive and well. And my self-sequestered fortitude of silence, aka my office here in Bryan, Texas. It's been lovely. I haven't moved out of this office much for the last 3-4 weeks now, because this is where I work and this is where we do the show. And yeah, I go into the rest of the house, but other than that, I'm pretty much here.
That's pretty much it, man. So what's going on in your world today? What is the big thing going on in Bryan, Texas today?
Von got diagnosed with coronavirus. That was the headlines.
Oh
Von
man.
Miller, famous Aggie, MVP of the Super Bowl, came down with it. But he's alive and well. He's at home resting and getting over it. So
Oh, that's
prayers,
good to
thoughts and
hear.
prayers out to you, Von. Hopefully you get soon. I have a feeling you will. You're stout young lad. You'll be fine.
Yeah, stout young lad indeed. So let's talk about it. So much going on, man. The coronavirus. We're starting to maybe hear sports could come back. Trump today announcing these are the guidelines for when things can start to come back open, when people can start to go back to work, when people can start to go out to eat again. All things considering. So, I mean, what do you think it's going to take for us to get back going the way we were? I mean, what do you think we need to do?
And I don't know, to be honest with you. Like, I'm I'm frustrated. I'm just like, screw it. Let's go back to being normal society again. I'm looking at the numbers. I'm looking at everything. I'm just like, yeah, I mean, people are dying and that sucks. But whole year, we'd have this many or more deaths from the flu, heart disease. I mean, it sucks that people are dying. Don't get me wrong. My heart goes out to those people and their families. But at the same time, like, I see all these other people who are truly suffering because they don't have any money now. Like, they're out of a job, they don't have the ability to put food on the table. The $1,200 stimulus check, I mean, was nice, but it wasn't enough to be able to actually do anything for these people. And then some people are getting it and some people aren't. I know a lot of people got it because when they filed their taxes in 2018, if they did it with a direct deposit, then it directly deposited into their bank account. Me and my wife both got ours, but I know other people aren't getting it because they changed banks, they've closed that account, they didn't have a bank account on file in the first place. They filed with like Jackson Hewitt, and they opened a bank account to be able to give them an advance, so it actually goes to Jackson Hewitt, and then they were supposed to send it to them, but because that bank account got closed, now it's being sent back to the government. It's a hassle and a half trying to figure out. And then Trump wants his name on the actual check itself, which is unprecedented. So that's going to delay the actual paper checks. Who knows, man? This is
So the
all I know.
IRS did refute that today. They said that they are not delaying the sending of any checks due to having the president's name. They have the president's name on file. It's literally just dragging and dropping an image over on top of the check and then printing the checks as normal. So
So
the
that's what
IR
I thought. I was like, how stupid of a programmer do they have to have if he can't simply just drop it in and go? Because I was like, oh, it's gonna be like a 3 day delay. I'm like, how? How
yeah.
is that a 3 day delay? Like, that makes no sense to be a
No,
3 day delay.
it makes absolutely jack shit sense, right? I mean, and it's just simply not true. It's simply not true that the IRS is delaying any check. So I don't know about you. I already got mine.
Yeah.
It came in the mail. I got it the other day. It was the full amount. Of course, I didn't get an image of it, so I couldn't tell you if it was like Trump signed or anything like that. But I haven't seen anybody yet that's gotten a actual physical check. But Trump's signature being on it, guys, this is all just bullshit that the Dems just want to keep making crap up to keep making crap up. It's all it really is oh, well, Trump wanting Not Nancy Pelosi, Maxine Waters legitimately said that she thinks that because Trump's signature's on it, people will think it's fake. And it's one of these things like, are you shitting? Are you shitting me? This is absolutely ridiculous that people would think it's fake. I mean, it's been national news for a month that people were going to get these checks. They know they're coming. It's not something where they're going to be surprised by it. Why would anybody get the check and be like, oh, well, it's a $1,200 check. I wonder where that came from. Everybody knows exactly where it's coming from. This is just, they just want to take credit for it. And if Trump's name's on it, then they don't feel like they'll be able to take credit for it. That's it. That's all it is.
That's exactly what it is. It's sad that they have to be the ones that are, oh, it was our idea. This was all us. The Republicans had nothing to do with it. Like, it was a bipartisan thing. And honestly, had you, Nancy Pelosi, stuck your little nose out of it, would have happened a lot earlier because the Senate already had a bill ready to go, and then you had to bring in all your pork and try to, well, the Hyde Amendment, you tried to violate the Hyde Amendment to fund abortions, which is illegal because, you were trying to sneak it in on a 1,200-page document. People didn't think people would notice it. And then take another week and a half, 2 weeks of negotiating this new bill and delaying what would have happened. The only difference to the American people that happened in the Senate's bill and the bill that got passed was a $200 change. Originally, the Senate was going to give us $1,000, and then it changed to $1,200. That's the only difference that you and I see.
Yeah.
Now, the Kennedy Center got some money, which they donated to the DNC. Well, not all of it, but a portion. And other organizations got money. The post office got a little bit of a helping hand because they're bleeding so badly, even though our mother works for them and I don't want to see them get in trouble because that would hurt her retirement. But who knows? Amazon's probably going to own them within the next 2 years. It's just sad that she's trying to take credit for something that she literally delayed by 2 weeks because she had to butt in. If she would have just allowed the Senate to do what they had done, which all considerations, they had come, like, the Republicans had given in a lot, the Democrats had given in a lot. They had actually worked together. They had come to a good compromise and were ready to go. And then, Pelosi decides to blow it up because, the Kennedy Center needs $25 million.
Well, and I mean, what do you think about what she's doing right now? We have a
And she's refusing to come back to D.C.?
Yeah,
isn't that right?
She's refusing to do her job. She's refusing to refund to what I don't mean refund as in give a refund. I mean put more funds into the PPP program, the Paycheck Protection Program. That was a widely popular program amongst a lot of companies. It has some very strict oversight. It has some very strict ways that they have to do it. It puts all of the onus onto the actual the borrowers instead of the lenders so that the banks can get the money out sooner. It's been very popular amongst people to get. And what it requires is that if you take out this loan and then you happen to not reduce your payroll until a certain date, the loan becomes a grant. And the loan becomes essentially a stimulus to the business. So this means that if you keep your payroll, if you keep your employees, if you continue to pay people what you should pay them, you will make more money. You'll get this free money to be able to stay in business. But if you go to fire people, then you're no longer going to get that money. And that's a good program. But Nancy has said they don't want to refund it. Dems are now coming out and saying, oh, it's nothing but a political game. It's nothing but a show. It's like, this is money that's actually going to help people, that's going to keep their jobs and allow them to continue to pay their bills. And for everybody who says, oh, well, this money, yada, yada, like has already been said, every dollar that goes towards this program is a dollar we're not paying somebody in food stamps, in other welfare.
Yeah, right? They just want people dependent on the government, dependent on food stamps, dependent on, Texas card, whatever it may be, because then they can keep their vote. They know that if they keep them, on the paycheck of the government, they're going to vote for what's going to keep their paycheck bigger. So what incentive do they have to rid that program, to try to get people off of that program and back to working? I mean,
Mhm.
you see these demonstrations in Michigan going on, and it's crazy. Like that governor up there has got some martial law like rules in effect right now, and those people cannot stand it. Like they are, and they got accused, of course, of being a political movement because they're waving Trump flags, but the people want to go back to work. They want to be able to do things, and she's prohibiting people from being able to do things, even if it was something that wouldn't cause them undue harm. Like they still have the social distancing, still wear masks, whatever it may be. A lot of these people, like my job is 6 feet away from people anyway. Why can't I be working right now? Why is it that Walmart's the only thing that's allowed to be open? So it's very strenuous on people, the economy, and everything
Mhm.
that's going on right now. And I like I said, it's hard to say should we just snap our fingers and go back to work, but at the same time, like we've got to start doing something or people are going to go stir crazy. It's cabin
Yeah.
fever is a real thing, and if we don't allow people to start slowly getting back into a normal routine,
Mhm.
things are going to get ugly. It's unfortunate that that's just the way human nature is.
Well, I mean, it is the way human nature is. It's, look, we can say what we want to say about things. We can say this, that, the other, right? There's all kinds of things going to be going on, but the reality is that we live in a world where people want to be able to earn money. They want to be able to provide for themselves. They want to be able to support themselves. They want to be able to go out and buy the things they want to buy. They want to have nice things. And while it's nice that this money came in and it's going to help some people out and it's going to get you over the hump, people don't want handouts. At least, people I want to be around don't. They don't want handouts. They want to make their own living. They want to make their own way in life. They want to be able to provide for themselves. So we've got to allow people to do that. And one of the only ways we're going to be able to do that is to actually let them go back to work. Now, I'm an essential personnel. I work in an essential industry, so
Same,
I've been at work, right? And although
same.
my industry is not doing great right now, and we're hoping the price of oil comes back here soon, and we're seeing rigs stacking up, and boy, there's some things going on that don't look great, but I still can go to work every day. I still have a job. I still earn a paycheck. And that means I'm putting food on the table for my family. That means I'm able to pay my bills. That means I'm not at risk of losing my house. Now, right, things can happen overnight. Things can change. But you got to look at all the people who, for the last 4 weeks, have been told you can't go to work, you can't have a job, we're not even going to allow your business to exist. And then we start looking at all these different things these governors are doing, mayors and governors, and all these rules they're putting in place, and it's like you're violating the basic rights of the people who you're supposed to represent and using this disaster as a means in which to control them. And it's an economic term. It's an economic saying. It was said for economic reasons of, the most permanent thing in life is a temporary government program. But let's hope that these programs are not going to become permanent. That once these governors figure out that people will allow them to restrict their rights based on an emergency, when do we unrestrict rights? When is it not an emergency? What then becomes an emergency? Because I was doing a lot of reading the other day on presidential emergencies, national emergencies. It's purely at the president's discretion. He can claim it for whatever he wants, and he can enact. There's 132 different provisions that he can enact within a national emergency without any oversight whatsoever. He can just do it. The Congress can try to impeach him, but that's really their only recourse if he wants to declare a national emergency and he wants to abuse it. So,
Yeah, but Pelosi would actually have to come back to Washington for that.
well, yes, but I mean, let's not act like if she could make a show of it, she wouldn't do it, right?
Of
I mean,
course. I mean,
if she thought she could get something out of it, she'd be back in a minute. The thing is that she doesn't think she can get anything out of this, right? She doesn't think she's set to win this one. She thinks this is making Trump look good because his approval ratings are getting better. So there's nothing here that she thinks is politically advantageous to her. Otherwise, she'd do it in a heartbeat.
I almost 100% guarantee you're right there. Not 100% exactly, because there's always that small percentage that says maybe not. But yeah, our actual stream feed chat's actually having a little bit of fun conversation in here. Don't know if
Oh
you've
yeah?
been watching it or not.
No, I haven't. I for those of you who've watched our streams before, you've noticed that maybe there's been some lagging or whatever. I'm trying to diagnose that on the fly here, and what I've noticed is that having Chrome up and watching the feed live on my desktop is taking too much of my CPU bandwidth, so I've closed that in order to not have my CPU trying to run too hard here, so that hopefully we're running at a much better rate. And I've noticed that since then it seems to be doing better on my phone, but I haven't been
Yeah.
looking at the. I've been watching it, but of course I have it sideways, so I don't see the chat. But let's
Oh,
hear it.
you got
What's going
good.
on in the chat?
So Dan Johns says Dems are trying to stimulate me with another 12,000. I don't want Pelosi to stimulate me. Frightening imagery. And he goes, yeah, honestly, I've lost more money from this than the Trump bucks covered.
The first one that came up was Chris Youngman. Hey
Yeah.
Chris, I'm sorry. Thank you so much for that. That's hilarious. Yes, it would be Nancy Pelosi. Thank you, sir. That was perfect.
Yeah.
It's just what I needed.
So yeah, I've seen that one before too. I also saw something earlier. It was like she's let them eat ice cream or something. I didn't get to look into it
No, no,
deeply.
no,
She's
no,
showing off
no.
all this
Yeah, they
gourmet ice
basically
cream.
did like an episode of Cribs, right? You remember Cribs on MTV back in the day? They'd go to all football players' houses, and there was always the what's in the fridge. That was always like the big thing. Well, what's in the fridge? What's in the fridge? Nancy opens her fridge, and it's $15 a pint ice cream. Now Nancy has long claimed that she doesn't have as much money as what people make it out to be, right? That she has said that she's one of the people, she's just a regular common folk. No, she's not. So for those of you who don't know, Nancy's dad was the mayor of Baltimore for a long, 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 long time. Then she married an investment banker who makes a ton of money. They own vineyards. They have massive amounts of stock in oil companies. They are loaded. Now,
I mean, she was in Dave Chappelle's special when he got awarded the Mark Twain award at the Kennedy Center, which is probably why she pushed for the Kennedy Center to get so much money.
Yeah. So, I mean, right. Like, okay.
I mean, and they donated, what was it, a fifth of it right back to her? So
yeah, well, and that that was determined before we even started this process. I mean, that deal, that handshake was made long before we decided to give that money to them. And that's what's infuriating about it is we know it happened. I mean, it's obvious as the night is long, but we can't prove it because Congress is not going to investigate it. And if Trump were to investigate it, it would be, oh, here he goes again. He's just investigating his political rivals. It's always the con game with them, and it's so annoying. And it's, okay, we had Dan Akana on here a couple weeks ago, and we were talking to him about and so I've been getting on with him because we've been talking a little bit about the coronavirus on Twitter, and just going back and forth. And I will openly admit, and I've said it before, that no, Trump did not handle the coronavirus as well as he could have. I'm not saying he's done a bad job. I'm saying he could have done a better job. There's always a better job that could have been done. That's not me being a non-conservative or me being a non-Trump guy. I'm still going to vote Trump over Biden. Now, of course, there were things we could have done differently. We could have enacted the national emergency earlier, which would have triggered the FDA regulations rolling back on testing, which meant we could have had tests. We could have tests for the coronavirus much earlier because they would have been able to get them out. University of Washington had tests that worked as early as February 5th. Earlier testing means early detection. We know who the people are. We keep them out. We quarantine those people. Maybe we don't have to quarantine all of society. So could we have done better? Of course we could have. But have we done as bad as what people are saying we did?
as the media is trying to proclaim we're doing.
Exactly. And then also, let's look at some of the people who've been some of the most vocal critics now, and when were they first coming out? And a thing I've been talking to Kyle about, a thing that I've been pointing to everybody I talk to is, look, don't make the decisions. Don't criticize with today's data. Criticize with the data that the people had on that day, right? What did we know then? Because everybody says, oh, Trump got information about this back in December. We didn't know it had human-to-human transmission until late January.
Yeah, that's because the Chinese government or the CCP decided to scapegoat it or shove it underneath the rug, try to make it appear like it didn't actually happen. Like they did a lot. Like if China would have actually been upright, forthright with this probably would have stopped in China and never gotten past their borders. But because they tried to shove it underneath the rug and actually keep it from being public knowledge, it just spread and spread and spread.
So here's the favorite thing I have, right? That now the big thing is everybody's coming out saying, "Oh, Trump didn't actually ban travel from China." Well, of course not, because we can't ban.
Because Schumer blasted him on Twitter about doing it.
Okay, so here's what happened, right? He restricted travel. It's not an outright ban, and here's why they're saying it's not an outright ban. U.S. citizens and legal residents were allowed to return with anybody that they brought with them, right? That was basically their family members or whatever else. So it wasn't a downright ban, right? He didn't stop all travel, and there were 40,000 people is the number they're using that came from China after he restricted travel. Okay, but let's talk about how many people left Wuhan, China from December 5th to January 25th, right? It was million people went in and out of Wuhan, the Wuhan province of China, the Wuhan area of China, that were now potentially contaminated. And there was evidence as early as December 15th of human-to-human transmission, which the Chinese government downplayed and hid, and they brought their own doctor, the doctor who came on and said, look, there's a chance this is spreading, there's a chance this could be bad. They made him go on TV 2 days later and apologize for spreading rumors and propaganda. And now, of course, that doctor, has died. He's gone. He's died. He's out. He's out. So it's one of those things where it's like can't say.
The question is, did he die of the coronavirus or did he die of the CCP? Because there's a lot of people that don't think he died from coronavirus. Like, he may have had coronavirus, but he didn't die from coronavirus. The Chinese government killed him, blamed it on corona, and got rid of him because he was actually speaking out against them.
Well, that's the thing, right? Is we don't know what happened because China doesn't release a lot of information. Okay, so there's a couple of different things here, and here's one thing I wanted to show you. So on the screen, I've got a timeline of early coronavirus stuff going on here. All right, so what we want to look at here is I want to look at right here in early January, which this is coming from nationalreview.com for anybody who can't see that. Anyway, what it says down here is that Trump on like January 5th, let me look at my notes again here, but it was like January 5th when Trump offered to send CDC members to China and let them know and let us go help them investigate it, help them research it.
And they outright refused that.
And they outright refused it, right? So it was the 5th. So on the 5th of January, China again says no to human-to-human transmission. The CDC issues a travel warning. So let me go down here. Here's January 5th for you guys. Okay. CDC offers to send research team. China declines. Okay, so what's that telling you is that China, we could have had more data, and data is what is key here. As we get more data about this, the closer we get to getting a vaccine. As we get more data, we find out what treatments work. As we get more data, we find out how to keep people alive, how to keep people from getting it, how to keep it from being so bad. And a large part of this, what happened in mid-February to early January or early March, is the unknown. It was fear of the unknown. Nobody knew what was actually going to happen, so they didn't take precautions because they thought, we overreacted because we were too scared of what we didn't know, And now we're seeing, okay, maybe it isn't as bad as it was. It is bad. It definitely is bad. It definitely has killed people. It definitely can kill people. But, okay, children aren't really dying from this. People without pre-existing conditions really aren't dying from this. There is some effective treatments. There are some things that work. And, there's always some other things. But the overreactions that we've seen, the complete locking down of travel, the complete locking down, the governor of Michigan now says you can't even go see your family members. You can't even go to the next door house and visit your neighbors, right? What if your neighbor's an elderly woman who lives by herself? What if she's somebody's
She better
grandmother?
not fall.
She better not fall. She better not have a heart attack or have a stroke or anything like that, because we'll find her 30 days later, I guess. I mean, and the argument always is, and it's always so annoying that, oh, well, if you're for opening up the economy, you just want to kill people. You don't care about old people. You don't care about the elderly. What? Why can't we open the economy for the people who want to go to work, and anybody who decides they don't want to go to work, don't go to work. If you don't feel safe, don't go outside. It's that simple. If you don't,
I mean, like we could do what Sweden's doing and have social distancing for those that have pre-existing conditions, those who are elderly. That's what they're doing. Now, I mean, they're not leading the world in deaths or, preventing deaths, but at the same time, they're not as bad as Italy. They're not as bad as, China. Well, what the real China numbers. They're not, nearly as bad as the majority of them. Now, they still have some deaths, but they're still working. They're still going, still doing things. And the people who are at risk are the ones that are being told to social distance. If you have a pre-existing condition, you're to stay home. But, the young, healthy people can go out and build herd immunity.
well,
Now, another thing that, and this is conspiracy / not so much, I don't know, is did this actually come over last November before it really was known about? Because
it's
there's
very likely.
a large amount of people who said, I had the coughing, I had pneumonia-like symptoms, and no one could explain it. Late November, early December time frame, and they had no idea what was going on, but they recovered from it and they got better.
Mm-hmm.
And now those areas don't seem to have as much cases reported. California, Northern California, Northern Nevada, those areas. And then there's Gran was telling me about one of her friends lives in an RV park, and they think they already had it, so they don't think they're immune. They're immune to it at this point. They don't think they can get it anymore.
50% of the people in Chicago that were tested for antibodies have antibodies present, which means they've had it at some point.
Yes.
That's of the people tested, right? So that number could go up or down based on additional testing of antibodies. But of the people testing, they have antibodies already, which means they've had it. Because the only way you develop antibodies for something is to have it, and then your body fight it off and build up the antibodies to fight it. It's highly unlikely that an additional antibody would also cross over to being an antibody for this. So we are seeing that probably more of the population was infected than we think it was. Which, okay, there's a little bit of good news and bad news to that. Number one, good news is that, okay, it's probably not as bad as we think it is, right? The mortality rate's probably much lower than we actually see it, because we're not calculating the full scale of who's had it. We're only
there's so many people that have it asymptomatically, they'll never know they had it unless they get tested for antibodies.
Yeah, so many people have had it, and we're probably maybe they had the sniffles, maybe they just had a cough for a couple days, maybe their lungs burned a little bit, but they didn't have it bad enough that they went to the hospital. We're not counting those cases, and because we're not counting those cases, the mortality rate, the death rate is very hard to calculate. Now, again, this is about data. I'll go back to this. This is a data-driven world. We live in a world where all these models you've seen, all of these things, this is data. Right? This is just taking data and trying to make heads or tails of it, trying to take something and make something from it. And it's very hard when data is very lacking, when you just don't have it, and when the data you do have is not very accurate, because who knows if the data we're getting from China, if there's any truth behind it.
There's no way that's accurate. I mean, let's face facts. If they covered it up as long as they did, they, made the doctor who found it recant. There's no way they're giving us accurate data. You can be the least tinfoil hat person in the world, and there's no way you can disagree with me on that. I mean, the Chinese government is. I mean, even
Well,
today they're coming out and having
I can tell you
their
then.
version of the
See,
WHO saying it wasn't lab created.
yeah, CNN and MSNBC have literally in the last week taken direct reports from Chinese broadcasting and literally just translated them into English and reposted them, in which it in the article says that the United States is doing so poorly in comparison to China, that China has done such a great job with this, and that it's the U.S. that's failing. And this is literally reporting from CNN and MSNBC. And you'll never see them recant these stories, right? And again, even if they recant these stories, even if they come back and print corrections, nobody reads the corrections. Nobody
No.
goes back to look at it. You see it once, you're done reading it. Nobody goes back to say, "Oh, let me see if there was a correction to that story from 6 weeks ago." Nobody does that. And the New York Times knows this. The Washington Post knows this. The LA, all these people, they understand this. They know that they can print the gossip that they want to print, and then all they have to do is, before they get sued for libel, issue a correction 3 weeks later on the back page of their paper that nobody's going to read.
Exactly. It's terrible.
And and a little note from the editor that nobody looks at, they're going to say, "Oh, well, we were wrong here. Trump didn't actually say it was a hoax. Trump said that our coverage of it is a hoax, and that them blaming it on and us blaming it on him is a hoax." But it's like Charlottesville. Trump never said there was good people on both sides. Trump said, well, he said there was good people on both sides, but he never said that about the white nationalists. What he said is the white nationalists, they should be condemned completely, but other than that, there was good people on both sides. But we don't see that quote. We see only the little portion of it here where they can edit it down and say what they want to say. And the other thing about coronavirus is, again, I go back to all the Dems who are now
It's
saying,
amazing what you can make someone sound like if you take them out of context.
that's right. It's and okay. Let's go to today and let's talk about what they knew and the decisions they made when they knew them, right? Because Trump restricts travel from China on January 29th. Okay? That happens. At the time, he had just found out that there was human to human transmission. I can't say that word today for whatever reason. Sorry.
Blah, 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 blah,
Blah,
blah.
blah, 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 blah. So that's when Trump decides to shut down travel from China.
What day was that?
That was January 29th. Okay. On that day, or shortly thereafter, Nancy Pelosi comes out, Joe Biden comes out, every Dem and their mother comes out and says that Trump's a racist, he's xenophobic, he hates Asian people, all these other things, that we don't need a travel ban, that this isn't dangerous, that we can do whatever we want. February 24th, Nancy Pelosi's in Chinatown in San Francisco telling everybody to come on out. It's okay. It's fine. Now, I'm going to give Nancy as much leeway as I give Trump here. Because did Nancy know it was human to human transmission? Did she know it was going to be as bad then? No, because you got to look at the data they knew at the time. Hindsight is always 20/20. We can always say, "Oh, well, yeah, now why'd you make that decision? God, we know this and this." We know that now. We didn't know that then. We didn't know this stuff at that time. So it's hard to say, okay, Nancy was being an idiot, but at the same time, when Trump was taking it seriously as of January 29th, and then on February 4th in his State of the Union address, he announces that, we've started the Corona Task Force. We're going to start looking into this. We're going to start putting stuff into this. We're going to start taking it seriously. Nancy rips up the paper there, and then 20 days later says, come on out to Chinatown. It's not that bad. Bill de Blasio, the mayor of New York, tells everybody to come out for Chinese New Year's. Come celebrate. And we wonder why New York is the epicenter of the United States pandemic, because late in January or late in February, early in March, you got people who still, because the mayor of New York City is telling them it's fine. Go out to eat. Go do what you want. Even Dr. Fauci, the supposedly best doctor we have, or whatever the hell you want to call it, He tells people, if you're young and you're healthy, go on cruises, go to hotels, go travel, go do what you want. They didn't know it was going to be this bad until early March, mid-March. And that's when we see the reaction they took. So for everybody who says that Trump knew it was going to be this bad in November, December, January, bullshit.
Hey,
Nobody
Ross,
did. Yeah.
It's not Chinatown. It's COVID town. Don't be racist. That's in the chat.
So, am I being racist? Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
you call it
So,
Chinatown.
it's
you can't call it Chinatown. That's racist.
okay. So that's such an idiotic argument. I've had that argument with people so often that China is not a race; it's a nationality.
Yeah.
It's simply that true. It's simply that easy. If I said Asian stuff, which by the way, we have Asian food, we have Asian whatever, we have the Asian okay. Listen, you can make whatever argument you want, but again, the point is, what did we know when, and what decisions did we make based off of that data at that time, right? We can always say hindsight's 2020. We can always look back and say we could have acted better, right? I've written a bill that allows the FDA to get rid of all the testing regulations, to start stripping back testing regulations for hospitals, research hospitals, and universities, okay? So I'm meeting the Dems halfway here. Please understand. I understand what you're going to say because you've already said it to me. Is that, oh, now we're just going to have for-profit companies out here charging $1 million just to get a cure. No. I'm only including entities that have no profit motive in this. Okay? So you can't poo-poo it along those lines. Research hospitals and universities. No profit motive. Students, researchers, people doing great work in this country, some of the best and brightest people we have, would be allowed to get rid of testing requirements when certain criteria are met. Those criteria are based on pandemic response, number of deaths in the world, number of cases in the world, whether or not the CDC issues certain warnings. Any of these things happen, it triggers, and it's not a subjective decision anymore. Right? It doesn't allow the president to play politics with it because when a national emergency declaration is a political decision, right? It's not being made only solely from what's going to be best. It's being made from a political mind point of, should I do this? Is it going to help me politically? Is it going to hurt me politically? So, let's take it out of the politicians' hands. Let's make it to where it's an objective decision that if these criteria are met, this happens. And now the FDA can roll back testing requirements only for research hospitals and universities.
Yeah, I mean we had discussed that previously, and that was kind of some of my ideas as well. Now, the thing that I'm having issues with on all this, Ross, and you can let me know if you're seeing it out there as well. But they announced like the 6th death that happened here in Brazos Valley was a gentleman of coronavirus, of course, was a gentleman who was, and now I'm gonna figure out the word. Wow, already on hospice, already dying, already had heart conditions. So the gentleman was on death's door, got COVID, and then died. So he now died of COVID, even though he was already on hospice. So to me, like, how do you count that as a COVID death when the gentleman was already knocking? Hey, I'm ready to go home. Oh, you got corona? Now you're dead? Okay, you died of corona. That doesn't make any sense to me. And I mean, you're seeing the number of deaths from heart disease and all this other statistics that normally are sky high, right? Every year, you're seeing those drop record number low because all deaths that they can blame on COVID are getting blamed on COVID. So what's going on with that? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. How is it that this gentleman who was on hospice, how is that considered a COVID death?
Well, okay, I kind of understand this, and part of this is you would rather over-report than under-report, because if they were under-reporting it, then it would be an issue. Over-reporting, okay, fine. We can always come back and we can always make the numbers what they really are once we have more data, right? But let's over-report. Let's err on the side of caution here, and I think that's what over-reporting is trying to do here. Is trying to say, okay, we understand, and we heard Dr. Birx come out and address this the other day during the president's news conference. Right now, they are any case that even could be suspected of having coronavirus is being labeled a coronavirus death. Even if there's not a positive test, even if the doctors just suspect coronavirus was involved.
Did you read the chat?
I didn't. What's that?
Yeah, he said New York added 4,000 deaths to the tally that were not confirmed, just suspected.
Yeah, exactly. So, that's just the thing is, when can we say it is or it isn't a coronavirus death? And I think we'll come back and we'll have some of this. But it's better to err on the side of caution. It's better to say, okay, this was a coronavirus death, and then come back later and say, okay, maybe these weren't, and par it back down. I would rather them over-report right now than under-report, I guess is what I'm saying. I'm on board. I'm not upset about that.
I kind of am. I'll be honest with you. I think that it should not be labeled corona death unless it's legitimately a corona death. That's
Well,
just my opinion.
I mean, because of lack of testing, because of so many other things. And listen, just because you're right that just because you have coronavirus doesn't mean it was the cause of death, right? I mean, if you have a heart attack while having coronavirus, what killed you? The heart attack killed you, right? But, were you weakened by the coronavirus to where your body couldn't overcome, I don't know. It's one of those things where, listen, at this point, I'm more worried about other things than that at this point, right? I'm more worried about getting testing out the door, making sure we can test adequately for this. I'm more worried about making sure that people are taken care of, and I'm more worried about making sure that people can actually go back to work and live their lives. And again, I go back to, if you are a person who is willing to take the risk in order to make money, take the risk. I mean, that's on you. If you don't feel like taking the risk, if you don't feel like it's worth it to you, stay home. I mean, that's just the nature of the beast, that we live in a country where freedoms are supposed to exist regardless of what is going on. And if the government can take our freedoms away for this, what else can they take our freedoms away, right? If a right can be taken away, it's not a right. It's as simple as that. As soon as the government can say, we suspend this, we're now seeing protesters being arrested for protesting peacefully, and it's being said that that's a non-essential activity. The First Amendment protects the right to protest. The founding fathers said that is one of the most essential freedoms the people can have, is the right to protest. So how can we now say that this is a non-essential right? What other rights? And I mean, if you know where this is going, it's going to be the Second Amendment. It's next. It's coming. The Second Amendment's going to go out the door. Then the Fifth Amendment's going to come out. The right to not prosecute against yourself. The right to not self-incrimination. Right? There's all these different rights that are just going to go. And we were told that rights were given to us by God, therefore could not be removed by government. Why are we allowing the government to remove our rights? I wrote this on Twitter the other day. If you want to go outside, you want to go to the park, right? And your city has a ban on it, go to the park. And when the cops show up, be respectful, take your ticket, and do whatever the fuck you want to do. And keep going about your day. And they give you another ticket, take that ticket. They give you another ticket, take that ticket. Whatever, right? And when it comes time, go plead not guilty. Take their asses to court and defend yourself in court. Make them defend what they're doing in a court of law. Make the judge decide. And then if the judge decides against you, appeal that shit. And if that judge decides against you, appeal again. And keep appealing to the Supreme Court. Because there's no goddamn way that this is acceptable. And the only way we can show them it's not acceptable is to take them to court and force them. Because guess what's going to happen next year when this crap comes back? They're going to go back to doing all this shit again. They're going to tank us again for the same crap. Or, heaven forbid, mid-October, when it starts getting cold again, It comes back really bad when they think it's going to come back. Are they going to tank us again, tank the economy again right before the election to just stick it to Trump? Let's say that the Trump we open up the economy on May 1st, like Trump's saying right now, and things come roaring back. We get going great. They're going to dump us again. I guarantee it, first part of October, when they have a few cases reported, they're going to say, let's lock everything down again. We got to lock it all down to tank the economy and make it to where Trump can't use that as a campaign speech.
Yeah, that's almost 100% what's going to happen. I mean, I think honestly, the reason that the economy is shut down right now is because of how good Trump's numbers were looking. Like how good the economy was before all this started is why they have it locked down so severely, because they don't want the economy to get back going. They don't want us to be able to earn money and therefore get mad at Trump because he's the reason all this happened.
Yeah.
So,
well, let's be
and
fair.
then I've seen people
all the
go,
lazy sacks of shit that wanted to live off the government. This is their dream. They're
Yeah.
forced to stay inside. They're forced to live their life of leisure and get payments from the government. All they want is more payments from the government. That's all they want. That's all they care about. If they can get that, they're going to be happy, right? So let's be fair.
I saw today that they were proposing. Now it's strictly Democrats, so who knows if that's if ever going to go into place. But they were proposing $2,000 a month per person down to the age of 16 who's been affected by this, up to $130,000 income level, and
it's literally
that
buying
2,000
votes. It's
and
literally buying votes is what this is.
And the $2,000 a month would go until the economy went back, or the unemployment numbers went back to the number they were before COVID started.
So that would never happen. We would never get unemployment back to those numbers. You know why? Because we're taking away people's incentive to work. When you take away people's incentive to work, they don't work. Because it's not just about the unemployment rate. It's about the labor participation rate. This is what when people say, the unemployment rate was going down under Obama. It was because the labor participation rate went down as well. So it's not that the unemployment rate actually went down, right? The static unemployment stayed the same. What didn't change is the dynamic unemployment of the amount of people they were counting. So the Obama administration just wasn't counting people who had stopped looking for jobs. And because of that, yes, the unemployment rate went down. The thing about Trump that happened is that not only did the unemployment rate go down, but because wages were rising, a 5% wage raise since Trump became president, by the way, which hadn't happened in over 40 years, that wages had risen in that amount of percentage in that amount of time span. You got to go look at Fred, guys. Fred has all this data if you want it. We saw the labor participation rate going up and up and up. And that's why we see so many people jumping off these payrolls right now, because these were people who had just barely gotten back into the economy, had barely gotten back into participation, and now those jobs are gone. We got to get those jobs back, but we got to open up the economy.
I agree with you. I'd bring up something about one of our siblings, but I don't want to endanger them in their career. So had one of our siblings gotten laid off, they'd probably be making more money right now than they would have been if they'd kept their job.
Yeah.
So that's unfortunate that is the reality that we're in today. And he or she is in a really good paying position. Damn it. So yeah, it's one of those things. It's just,
if you know our family, you know who we were talking about. Anyway, So guys, let us know what you think in the comments below. Make sure you let us know what you think about this. It's such a crapshoot anymore with what these guys are doing that we just don't know anymore. Guys, please do make sure you like and subscribe to the video. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. We need all the support we can get. Make sure that we can keep going. Make sure we can keep going all that we can. Make sure you visit the Zero Gravity Media website. Make sure you're watching all the other Zero Gravity Media channels. Make sure you're watching Harley Strictly Politics, the forum, whatever's happening else. Make sure you're watching those Saturday Comfy posts when we get a chance to do them. Guys, right now, life's a little crazy for us, so we're not getting to do some of the things we want to do with this at the moment. We will come back. We will be strong. We do have some guests that we're trying to get. We don't have any major announcements at the moment, but I got
one.
Kyle's got one. So, guys, we're going to have some stuff going on here. Make sure you like Kyle. Go to Twitter. Make sure you follow Kyle and I on Twitter. Make sure you go to Instagram. Kyle's on Instagram. I'm not on Instagram, so don't look for me there. If you see me on Instagram, it's somebody else. So, if they got
if you're on
pictures of me.
Instagram, you'll see an announcement that my wife and I made recently, and she's already asleep. So I guess I'll go ahead and break the news. And you actually got similar news, almost the exact same news. My wife and I are expecting our first child on October 24th. We don't know the gender yet. We've done the genetic testing. Hopefully, fingers crossed, healthy. After that, boy or girl. I hope for boy. She hopes for girl. I'm honestly just hoping for 10 fingers, 10 toes.
10 fingers, 10 toes, man. That's all you got to worry about. 10 fingers, 10 toes. Everything else take care of itself. So Kyle broke it for me. My wife and expecting our 6th child, number 6. It's on its way. I don't know how I'm gonna get a car big enough. That's now the issue.
15 passenger van, man.
Mercedes makes them, and it looks where I'm headed. Market comes back on the vehicle I have, I probably will be trading it in on a 15 passenger van. So other than that, we do know the genetics. It will be a little boy. So we are due October 20th. So suck it, Kyle. We beat you again. And everything else is going good. But guys, do please subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Do please like the video. Please leave comments about what you think, how we're doing. If you like what we're doing, if you don't like what we're doing, we don't really care. If you don't like what we're doing, great. It gives me something to talk about because I love debating people. Regardless of what it is, you want to debate, get on here. I'll debate the crap out of you.
I got in trouble the other day for debating on Facebook, and I'm not going to talk about it, but just know that if you bring up the government buying you guns as a reason why the government shouldn't buy people health care, people get phone calls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kyle tried to get canceled. All right, guys, thank you so much for listening tonight. Thank you so much for being on. We will be on and back here with you guys soon. Please like all of the SchuBros unfiltered stuff that you can get. The SchuBros unmuted, the SchuBros unlimited, whatever we're going to call ourselves at the moment. We never know. We just come up with this shit as we go. Guys, please do hack us all. Kyle, where can they find you on Twitter, Instagram?
I'm out Kyle Schumann 08 on both channels, so feel free to go follow me.
And I'm at Ross Schumann. That's Romeo Oscar Sierra Sierra Charlie Hotel Uniform Mike Alpha November. Weight check is 245, down a full 40 pounds since January 13th. So still going down, still getting there. Everybody, please be safe. Please enjoy your life. Please have a good one. And thank you so much.
I think I'm going off the deep end. I think I took a left when I should have took a right at the bend. I think I'm looking at the wrong trends. All these different people around me and they're calling me friend. Come on man, let's just pass the time. From amphetamine to weed, all it takes is a drive. And it's alright, I got you this time. Let's just pick up something